Very good evening to you. I'm Jeff Kulikowski.
I'm Christy Casciano. Kids committing crimes and seemingly right back out to commit crimes again.
We've heard you, as well as local leaders, say the juvenile justice system is broken.
And right now we have a rare opportunity with a sitting family court judge to talk about changes in the system. The Honorable Julie Cecil. Judge Cecil, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Julie, we know that a lot actually has been going on behind the scenes. It may not seem like it. We don't necessarily hear it to fix, improve the system. What's been happening? Give us a snapshot of what's going on behind the scenes that we aren't necessarily privy to until now.
So the county and city for years have been having lots of meetings. However, in the last few months, we've concentrated on specifically the burglaries, the gun cases, and also the stolen vehicle cases. And we've come together on a couple of occasions with the county exec's office, probation, law enforcement, the district attorney's office, and the city, and trying to really figure out what we can do specifically to address those specific cases.
And what have you learned as you have all these parties coming together? What did you discover is the root of the problem?
I'm not sure it's necessarily the root of the problem, but we know that we have to communicate better between our agencies and also communicate better with the court system. So one of the things that is happening right now is that probation, law enforcement, and the county attorney's office is going to start meeting bi-weekly with these particular cases so that we can have a plan to actually communicate with the court and to be able to tell us what things are happening.
And what's been happening is that we see kids, you know, we're talking, what, 12 to 15-year-olds?
For the most part, for family court, yes, it's 12 to 15. Raise the age is the 16 and 17-year-olds.
Okay, and that's a little bit, I think, of a misconception by people. We hear that kind of thrown out. Well, it's raise the age, and that's the problem. That's why we're seeing these younger kids go right through the system like that. Raise the age has nothing to do with those 12 to 15-year-olds.
No,
right?
Raise the age didn't affect the 12 to 15-year-olds. Raise the age are just specifically for the 16 and 17-year-olds that are committing felony charges. They eventually might get to family court, but a lot of these cases that we're seeing are the 12 to 15-year-olds.
And why is it happening? You know, we see these kids, they're, you know, out stealing cars, committing burglaries. They get arrested. They go before you. They get out. And then they're back before you. Why is this happening?
So, again, there's this misconception that they come right directly to me. A lot of times they get arrested, they get a family court appearance ticket, and they are directed to go to the probation department. They're not directed to go to court. And probation department now has got 2 days that are intake days, and they do assessments. They figure out what is necessary to obviously help the families. And if they do everything they need to do, they can go through a program called diversion through probation. And if they do that well, their case may never get to family court. If they don't do diversion and they're not cooperative, that's when they will actually come to see me in family court.
I think there are plenty of people out there that'll say that it's the parents that are failing to properly supervise these kids. Like, why aren't the parents or the guardians in a lot of cases? How do we kind of change that? Is there something that is in the works amongst all those groups you described earlier to address that situation, to better maybe support them in this?
I do think that there are some really great parents and guardians that are trying their best to obviously to curtail this behavior. And the majority of those cases is mental health and bad behavioral. There are definitely parents that are not supervising their children. And in that case, I think that we have mandated reporters throughout the whole process, whether it be law enforcement, schools, or anything like that, and Child Protective might have to get involved. I know the city has also now started a new I won't say program, but they're doing letters to parents that they know their children are at risk or doing bad things in the community, and they're going to their homes with law enforcement and school personnel and saying, we have resources to help you. Your kids are on our radar. What can we do to help?
And do you think that's what's been missing, is there hasn't been the connection between, you know, parents who need help and knowing where to turn? They've just kind of, these kids have become lost in the system.
It might be, but we also are talking about parents that are probably been exposed to their own trauma and their own neglect, and they just don't know how to actually get the help that they need.
Is there also a change in the works as far as the judges? When you say not all the cases necessarily get to you, and by you aren't the only one, right? There are several, and I guess a child, if they get that far, could see you, next time could be a different judge? Are we kind of streamlining so we have more accountability or keeping track better of each individual kid?
So yes, this past year there's been 5 judges, family court judges, that have been handling them. As of January 1st, Judge Bogan, who is amazing, was doing youth part. We are now changing that, and Judge Zavalia, who is a family court judge, is also going to be youth part. So that's going to be streamlined so that if he sees a youth in youth part, he'll keep the case so it's family court. So he'll get the majority of the juvenile delinquency cases, adolescent offender cases, and then I'll be his backup for anything.
And has that been lacking, you know, not having that consistency, not being able to, you know, communicate and follow through on a child in trouble with the law?
I can't, you know, pinpoint that, but when we did this back in 2014, I was the only judge that was handling the juvenile delinquency cases, and it was able to get better data and consistency, and so that's where we kind of want to get back to, so we can see what we're doing right and what we're not doing right.
Gotcha.
We understand there's about, I think it's $4.5 million that's coming to this community to address some of the issues we've been talking about. How exactly is that money going to be spent?
I personally do not know,
okay.
But it's my understanding that there's a lot of great organizations that are already doing some really great work, and I think that that's going to be able to up their ability to help these youth, and also resources to get the youth interventions.
What would you say to the victims who've, you know, fallen victim to kids committing crimes? They've gotten their car stolen, they've been burglarized, and they feel helpless, and they feel like the system is broken. What would you say to the public, and what are our misconceptions?
So in family court, the victim does have a voice. That's the other thing. A lot of times people think that it's totally secretive. The victim can come to court prior to being sentenced and be able to do a victim impact and actually face the youth and tell them how that this has affected them. And I think that that is so powerful to make these youth understand how a burglary with a shop has affected them financially, emotionally. Those kids don't hear that. So I think it's important. I don't want to re-victimize any victim, but if they can have the courage to do that, I think it's important for these youth to understand that.
Time to sneak one more question in. I'm curious with some of the, I'm going to call them changes or revisions or however you want to classify them that we've talked about here. Are you starting to see some of the impact of those? I don't know if success stories is the right way to phrase it, but is it working? Are these things working?
Well, we haven't had enough time for some of these changes, okay?
Sure.
You know, the fact that county attorney's office, law enforcement, and probation are going to now meet bi-weekly, I think we're going to be able to have a better sense of whether it's working or not.
Okay.
Yes, we always have some success stories where we have got interventions in place and a youth is graduating from high school. Those are the great stories, and you don't hear those, obviously.
This is a great conversation.
Yes.
We need to keep it going. So, Judge Cecil, we really appreciate you taking the time. Very rare opportunity for us to do that. And hopefully our viewers have also learned a lot, too.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Your Honor. Appreciate it.